Hello again, my most amazing artists. Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about how you can create a pattern for our project that we'll be working on this week and next week. What is a pattern? Well, when we think about what lines are and what shapes are, patterns are usually a combination of one or the other or both. But that means that they are repeated over and over. A pattern is any line, shape, or color that repeats 3 or more times. Here we have some examples of some different patterns that we can make. Again, you can see how each one is made out of a simple line, a shape. And in this case, we don't have any color, but you'll see how we make some on our project. Here are some more complicated ones. And remember, you can always pause the video or rewind if you want to see some of these patterns again when you're working on your project. And last but not least, and sometimes we call these visual textures too. Texture is a little bit different than pattern. Texture is the way something feels or looks like it feels. But usually it's because it creates a pattern. Okay? So now we're going to see what it is that we are making. Now, because it is officially springtime and spring is in the air, I thought that we could make something like this, okay? And now you can already tell that my egg is got an opening here, right? It has an opening. And that is because inside we can hatch a little chick. Okay, or if you don't celebrate Easter, you could hatch something else. But our project is going to be to create these eggs that open and close on a hinge like this. Okay, and they should be pretty fun. Now here you can see I've used a lot of different patterns. Some of them are just simple lines. Some of them are a little bit more complicated. Some of them are shapes, different types of lines or shapes and lines together. So again, some of them are just color, and you can repeat those colors over and over again in order to make a pattern. So for this, you are probably going to want either some very sturdy white paper or some construction paper. I used construction paper for my last one. I think I'm going to do a combination of both for this one. So I might make my pattern on my white paper so that you can see. You'll also want, if you have one of these, it would be very helpful, but if you don't, you could always poke a hole with a pencil. It might be helpful to get a parent's help with that part. Or if you have a brad fastener, something like this in your house, that can be very helpful. If you don't have something like that, maybe you have a bead and a piece of string or even a paper clip will work. Okay, and then you'll also probably want some glue and some scissors. So a glue stick will work just fine for this. I wouldn't recommend that you use, say, a glue bottle. I think that a glue stick will work much, much better for this. And again, some scissors. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how we can create our patterns. One last thing. I will be using markers for this project, but you don't have to use markers. You can use any coloring material that you would like. And you will really only need something to color with this week, because next week we're going to put it all together. Okay, the first thing I'm going to want to do is use my pencil to create the shape that will be our egg. The way I like to do this is I like to start by finding kind of like the center point on my paper and marking both the edges really close to the edge. And then I want to come really close to the bottom, so I'm kind of just making a little mark there too to see where I'm going. Now from here, I'm going to kind of make a curved line, almost like a U shape, a hill, And sometimes I find that if I just turn my paper, I can keep that curve kind of the same. You can see how my hand kind of rocks back and forth. Another thing you could do is for this part of it, you could trace a bowl or something large enough that like fits your paper, but you do want it to fill up the entire page. Do the best that you can to make that happen. Now from here, I'm going to come up to the top, but now it's going to get a little bit thinner as I work my way around. So I'm going to go from here and start to curve in faster. So this one's less round than the other one. It kind of just slopes down. Okay? Something that kind of looks like this shape, and I think what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to outline that so that you can see it a little bit better. This is not a step that you need to do. I'm finding that a lot of these Sharpies that are on my desk are dried out, sorry. This is just so that you can see this egg a little bit better where I have drawn it. Again, I find that if I turn my paper, that sometimes helps me. Okay, and there is the shape of my egg. Now, don't worry if it's not perfectly even. Just do it the best that you can. Now, I've got to decide what kind of patterns do I want to put inside my egg. And again, I can think about those pattern sheets that I showed you at the beginning of the video and see maybe which one of these patterns would work well for me. But let's start simple. I'm going to pick a color that I would like to use, and I am going to work my way from one side to the other. I think here what I want to do is I want to make a zigzag line. Okay, and then from the middle of that zigzag line, I'm going to come up to the top, middle. And then I think I'm going to color every other row. And if I color outside the lines a little bit, that's okay, because remember, I am going to come back and cut this out. Remember, we can use any color to kind of create our pattern, and if we want, we can just repeat that shape or color over and over. Remember, it must repeat at least 3 times in order to be a pattern. And you can see how I'm kind of curving these lines. You don't have to do this, but it does make your egg appear a little bit more round if you can curve them all in the same direction. You can see that in my example here. Okay, and then I could also do something like an A-B pattern if I wanted to. So I could use one color and another color to make my pattern. For instance, I might go this color. I'm going to kind of shape it to where I'm leaving space in between because I know I'm going to come back with my yellow and add to this. Here's what I mean. So now I go blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue. You get it. on and on and on. That's A, B, A, B, A, B, right? There are lots of types of patterns that you can create. And sometimes you might find that just a little touch of detail goes a long way. So if I wanted to add some extra little details to some of these patterns, it will make a really big difference. Again, just remember that you want to create lots of different patterns. You want to create a lot of variety in your work. So be sure that you pick colors that are going to help you with that. A variety of lines, many different shapes. Think of how many different shapes you could use. You might even try to bring different elements of springtime in there. So you could try to use something like a flower if you wanted to. Maybe I create this little tulip pattern. And again, remember, if I come back and add those details, it will make a big difference. And then I'm going to save this egg for next week. So make sure that you don't lose it before then so that we can finish this wonderful project. And there you go. Here is one completed egg. If you wanted, you could go back and color in each one of these individual rows, and it would really pop and stand out. The more color that you have, the more fun it can be. So keep this in mind, and remember what we're going to need for next week so that you're ready to hatch your surprise chip. Until then, I hope you have an amazing week. Enjoy the warm weather, and I'll see you next week to finish this up.